welcome to the Scottsdale Vibes Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Haygood. We are almost back to school, a few days for some of the Paradise Valley kids. Scottsdale starts on the 7th. I don't know about you, but I'm very excited my kids are getting back in school. Therefore, it is not my responsibility to feed them 50 million snacks and find an activity so I don't hear that I'm bored or throwing an iPad at them. I know my favorite dentist here, Dr. Rob DiVito of Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry, can probably agree, as our children are very much a similar age. Dr. Rob, how does it feel? We are almost there to game time for school time.
Bingo! Yes, that's. I feel like we're winning right now, and
right?
I absolutely agree with you. The amount of snacks that the kids need. I mean, I understand they're growing, but wow, you need to have a second job just to feed them sometimes.
I'm not even, and you, my oldest is a boy, you have two boys. I told my son that when he really starts going through, puberty and starts eating like 5,000 calories a day, that he's going to have a food budget. I will buy him a mini fridge for his room and then he has to pay for it to fill it. Cause I don't think I can keep up with him. Right?
It's ridiculous how much they eat. It really is. And the amount of activities that they do.
Yes.
To have that energy to burn off, I am very glad that school's going to be starting back up and sooner. I feel this year, a week or so sooner. So it is something that all parents look forward to towards the end of the summer.
I totally agree. Now, the summer did fly by. Last we spoke, you were going on a Disney cruise. You were having fun with your family. How did the summer turn out for you guys?
Oh, it was so wonderfully fantastic to get out of the heat
for
a couple of days. As we know, we live in Arizona, but true Arizonans, they tend to travel all over the place, up to northern Arizona, southern Arizona, and sometimes out of state. So we had a great time. We did a couple of camps up north, which worked out fantastic with the weather, I might add.
Yeah.
And the kids had a wonderful time. You really, in the summer, have to make sure that they have activities to do. Yeah. Because, for working parents, having them in camps during the week is a blessing.
I don't know about you, but growing up, there weren't as many options for parents. You had to find a daycare center for your elementary school age or find a friend that would help for those parents that worked full time. And the camps that were around, they were few and far between. I'm so thankful, like you said, the options our kids have, the options that we have as parents, because we still have to work. And I wish I got a summer off for school break, but I don't, as you don't either.
I totally agree. And I grew up a product of the system. I was in the Paradise Valley School District, and I do remember that I went to summer school when I was younger because the Paradise Valley School District had a summer camp, so to speak. And it was something that the middle schools, I remember, would run. And it would be a Monday through Friday. And my mom would drop me off and she would be just tickled pink that I wasn't home, I'm sure, for the duration of most of the summer. And it is a true benefit that we live here in Scottsdale and have the Scottsdale School District and the Paradise Valley School District that does so much for our kids, not only when they're in school, but when they're out of school as well, with a lot of out of school programs.
I couldn't agree more. I always send my kids up for those after school activities that come to the school. My kids love the kids' activities after school. We did a week of school camp this year too. They kind of hosted it at my son's school and he had a blast because I talked to some of his friends' parents. So we had like a group of the boys that got to go together and he was like, it's unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, camps are not always cheap. And if you go through the study of Scottsdale and find those, they are the best price you will find for any camp in town. So
absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely agree.
So there's something out there for everyone.
Bang for the buck, it really does work out for the best.
I completely agree. Well, let's talk about that. School's getting in session. What are you excited about besides not having the responsibility from 8:30 to 3:30 for your kids?
that is one way to put it for sure. Looking to the new school year, I'm glad a lot of the teachers are coming back. There's not so many changes that are happening, at least at my son's school. There, a couple of additions of faculty, but having that core teaching class from grade to grade, so that you actually, know who your teacher is going to be and what's going on, I think is an added benefit for where we live, and the district that we're in. And not to mention that the turnover rate isn't as large as well. They have not only the after school activities, but they still have their music, their art, their STEAM. You need a well-rounded school, and that's definitely what we get for where we live.
I love that. And I agree with you. When we were growing up, there was a lot of you had to fit into a box kind of mold, and there wasn't the options to explore the STEM, the Legos, the arts. I'm so thankful that you're right. We do have a lot of extra things to introduce our children to find what they're passionate about, because it's not that easy, and there's not just 5 choices, and that kid has to find one of those 5 things. And I think that's a great thing to point out.
I agree. And not only to say that, but the PV school districts, they always put out surveys, and they want the parents' input. I think that is an added benefit also to living, once again, right here in Scottsdale, because they're actually reaching out rather than it's a hear no evil, see no evil, do no evil. They want to make sure that all of the kids have some say in how they're being educated and what their school is actually doing for them.
I love that. And Scottsdale does the same thing. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, tell me, we all need to get in and get our fresh smiles for the fresh school year, Dr. Rob. You have openings for us, right? You're ready to see everybody?
We do have some openings, yes. And right around this time of year is when we normally get the big rush of kids coming in for their health checkups right before or the week of that they're going back to school. So we do see our fair amount of children in our practice. And we love seeing them, by the way. We love that they're keeping up with their oral health. So that way, if we only have to see them 2 times a year, we are winning. That's for sure. Because I would rather see you for a routine cleaning than an emergency. Because nobody likes coming to the dentist, and especially if they have an emergency. So, please make your appointments to see your dentist to come in to see us if you want to try out a different dentist and have your kids have a cleaning. And even if they did have an issue, maybe they had a small cavity, remember, we do laser dentistry at the Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry, which in most cases is no shot, no drill, which a lot of the children and even the parents love.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no pain. It's the best part. I know my kids, you're talking about the kids coming in. My kids actually love coming to you. In fact, last time we came the day after school got out, was our last cleaning. And my kids took them back to the seat by themselves.
Your kids were fantastic. They know this office, and we like them to know this office so that they feel like family. They feel like they don't have to be scared or worried about coming into the office or going back to the chair. And I'm not going to say that, it's routine for them now, but by all means, they feel very comfortable at the dental office. And that's what we love. And
I don't know about you, but as we were talking at the beginning conversation, snacks, my kids get to pick out the snack they get for after the cleaning, which just makes them love Dr. Rob even more. And they get a goodie bag of presents. You really do spoil us. Thank you so much, Dr. Rob, for always taking care of us. And you're right. Go check him out. He is a specialty dentist of the regular take care and loving, nurturing family practice. And to me, that's what makes me feel good, because we are family when we walk in there and it's known. So I thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much. And your kids are great. I love the fact that they keep up with their oral hygiene. Kudos to you as a mom.
Oh, thank you. Well, stay tuned. We're going to have Dr. Scott Menzel coming up next to talk about this school year. But Dr. Rob, thank you always for tuning in, keeping us healthy and smiling pretty. And again, go check out Dr. Rob DiVito, Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry. All of his information is in the description of this episode, as well as our weekly newsletter. So don't forget to sign up for that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. When it comes to family-friendly dentistry, there's only one place in Scottsdale, and that's Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry. Teeth cleaning, innovative, pain-free laser dentistry, teeth whitening, root canals, and really any dental need you may have, Dr. Rob and his staff at Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry can handle it all. They're more than just a dentist, they really are family. We've been going there for over 3 years, and my family loves them. When your kids get excited to go to the dentist, you know you've got a good one. Dr. Rob DiVito is the only dentist in town that can handle it all. Give him a call at 480-990-1905. You can find him on the web at drdivito.com. And don't forget to tell him you heard him on the podcast. All right, parents, the time has finally come to give our adorable children back to these amazing teachers as another school year starts. Whether this is your first school year for kindergarten parents or the last day of school for our seniors, I think we can all agree that we want our kids to have the best school year full of learning, experiences, and growth. And all of that is made possible because of our dedicated teachers, staff, and administration. So to start off the school year, we have SUSD Superintendent Dr. Scott Menzel. You know him, you've heard of him. He seems to constantly be in the news, but this week he's right here with me talking about this school year's term. So Dr. Menzel, thank you so much for meeting with me. I enjoy starting my school year with you and really excited to learn what we can expect from the district and stuff like that. So before we kind of get into the future and what this school year is going to bring us, I'd love to focus on how the school year ended last year and what were some of our greatest accomplishments as a district.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show and to talk about Scottsdale Unified School District. The last school year was pretty exciting. One of the most significant accomplishments that we can report is that the district received Cognia accreditation. Cognia is the accrediting body for K-12 schools around the country, and we received one of the highest scores that you can get as a district for our accreditation process. And not many people know that because the final results and the approval of our accreditation happened at the end of June. And so families were off for the summer, but we're really excited. It reflects the hard work and dedication of our teachers, our administrators, people across the school district, and it's really a point of pride and celebration.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because this is news to me as well. Like, what does that mean, and what did it take to get that accreditation?
So in the past, our high schools were accredited, and before it was Cognia, it was North Central, or they've had multiple different names for their accrediting, for the accrediting body, but it's the same body over time. And so they look at instructional practices, what's happening in the classroom, how we're meeting and designed to meet the needs of our learners. And then there's a scale, a rubric that they use to identify where school districts fall on that process. So high schools being accredited used to be important because you want to be able to say that you send your child to an accredited school. Cognia has an opportunity for districts to pursue accreditation across the system. So instead of just looking at our practices at the high school level, district accreditation means we were looking at what we're doing at all levels of the organization. And so to receive accreditation, K through 12 is pretty significant because it shows that we're engaging in continuous improvement practices in Scottsdale Unified designed to improve outcomes for our students.
I love hearing that. Everyone, like you said, wants an accredited school. It's what we thrive to do, and that's great. I know that we had an amazing class leave us last year. We had some amazingly talented seniors that went on to carry scholarships, Rhodes Scholars, a high graduation rate, which is something we were looking forward to after the COVID hit and stuff like that. We ended on a positive note. Let's talk about this school year. We're a week away from the doors opening. What are we going to expect this year from Scottsdale schools?
So I'll start by saying that our theme for this year is Because Kids. Very simple, but really important. We want to focus our attention on our why. As a school system, we exist to serve and meet the needs of our 21,400 students, however many we have that actually will show up on August 7th. We're going to serve them. We're continuing to work to grow our enrollment. It's an important part of our focus. But every day, we want our staff to remember that the reason we're here, the reason we do what we do, the reason we get up in the morning is because kids. That's our focus. We want to keep the message simple, clear, and focused. There's a whole lot of adult drama that's out there, as I know you are aware. We want to put the drama on the fringe and really focus on our kids. And so if the adult drama somehow starts to creep in, we're going to push it back out so that we can meet the needs of our students when they come through the door on August 7th and every day throughout the entire school year.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. I agree. I think adult drama is everywhere. Unfortunately, the kids get lost in it. And I do feel like the purpose and the message is never always heard because of that. So I like that the focus is back on the kids. That's where it belongs and that's where it needs to be. And I personally feel like that's the only way we're going to accomplish any kind of goal is if we focus on that. So talking about goals, and in order to get there, we always have to work on improvements, whether it's with ourselves, the administration, the students, the schools, and all of that. Dr. Menzel, what are some of the improvements the district is implementing this year, whether it's curriculum, building maintenance, upgrades, teacher pay? I'm going to yell really loud. I know you also started Parent Square is a new thing. What are all these new things that we can look for from the district to make the kids the focus of the school year?
So let's start with Parent Square because we believe the partnership with our families is of primary importance. We are working with families to ensure students get the education and support they need to be successful. The district launched Parent Square to create a streamlined approach to enhancing communication with our families. And Parent Square was designed by a parent because they were so frustrated with all of the different logins that they had to use for their child in their school. And they said, how do we streamline this to make communication more efficient and more effective between the classroom teacher, the building principal, and the district office with our families? So Parent Square was created by a parent for parents to streamline communication. That was why we decided to move in that direction.
Makes sense. We are the ones using it. And I agree. I had to get a new laptop and all of my old passwords were saved to the other one and I had to start all over and reset passwords. So I'm thankful for that because I'm definitely one of those parents that can't remember those little things. Let's talk about like school maintenance and stuff like that. I know we had some bonds passed. I know some of the elementary schools around town are getting some upgrades. I know my kid's school is in the process of getting some upgrades that we're very excited about. What does all this do for our district and what are you looking forward to for these upgrades for our school and our students?
So we're in the final phase of the 2016 $220 million bond initiative. This past summer, the two major projects that are coming to close are the rebuild of Pueblo Elementary. So that's one of our two dual language immersion programs. And that facility is going to be phenomenal. We were on schedule this time. So unlike last year when we opened Kiva and it was crunch time and teachers got in very late, Pueblo Elementary is right on schedule and will be ready to open and welcome students. A dynamic, exciting learning environment. I would invite people to come and check it out, especially those who are interested in enrolling in a dual language Spanish immersion program. And the second one is Tavon Elementary, where we've done some significant renovations, including something that I think will be interesting for you, because their outdoor PE space, which is not an enclosed gym, but it is covered in ways that help protect from the harsh desert sun. That's a model that we think is going to be replicable at Desert Canyon Elementary School. As we look at putting something on that location that also helps enhance the outdoor learning environment while protecting our students from the elements. So we have those projects drawing to a close, but great learning environments for our students. Our facilities team has been working diligently to ensure every campus is ready to welcome our students back on August 7th. It's been a hotter than normal summer. So our air conditioning team of 6 people have been working nonstop to replace equipment that sometimes fails so that we're ready. We also know that once you introduce all of those warm bodies back into the learning environment, there's some calibration that takes place. So we also ask for people's patience and understanding when they come back as our team works hard to ensure that the learning environment is appropriately cooled for the desert climate that we live in.
Yeah. Listen, we were one of those elementary schools last year that school started and the AC wasn't working. And you don't know until the time comes to we need it. So
right.
Thank you for that. Because we were sweating last year really bad. But, you kind of mentioned something about the facilities and the upgrades and stuff like that with the heat. All of these kids need to get out their energy. No one needs to sit at a desk for 8 hours. Science has proven that. We know that our kids lose attention and need to get the wiggles out, right? With that hotness and that the temperatures are rising here, we can't have the kids outside. What are y'all going to do to facilitate some areas to help our kids be able to still get out that energy that they're required to get out, but be safe with the weather and stuff like that as well?
So there are opportunities to take movement breaks in classrooms, and it will look different elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
Middle school and high school students are already moving in between class periods, and so they have some of that built in. There's an opportunity for teachers to do that as well, and to use the indoor space that we do have. Also look at whether or not there are opportunities to do things in the morning when temperatures might be a bit more conducive to being outside than the heat of the day. And then also making sure that we're focusing on hydration and making sure that our students have the supports they need, because they absolutely do need that physical movement as a part of being able and ready to learn the content. And so we'll work. Our teachers are very creative. Many of them have worked in the desert for a very long period of time. So this won't be new for them, and they'll be able to continue providing those meaningful outlets for our students.
That's good to hear. Listen, my kid's one of those kids that he needs energy. And the second he's not getting it out, the disruption of the class happens. And I know it's my kid. So he's one of those. And we all know it. You mentioned at the beginning of us talking, of our student ratio is about a little over 21,000. We've lost a lot of students over the past 5-10 years and stuff like that. What's happening? Why are we losing them? And what are you doing to bring them back and really focus on why it's important for our families to use the public school system and not always go charter and private and other areas?
So the decline of students is more than a decade long. And there are a number of variables. We have a demographic study that gets completed about every other year that really looks at, residential housing, what percent of the market we capture locally. With the expansion of charters, that resulted in some level of student loss. Back in 2012 to 2014, the district had 2 failed M&O override votes. And after the second failed override vote, when all-day kindergarten was cut, we lost specials at the elementary school. We lost more than 1,100 students in 1 year.
Wow.
We didn't get those students back after the voters approved the M&O override. So that was an important lesson for us. We do have another M&O override on the ballot this November, and it matters when the community invests in public schools, and when they didn't invest in schools, we lost a lot of students. The current environment is one where parents have choices. So we bring in quite a few school of choice students from outside the boundaries of our district. Open enrollment can be broken into 2 categories. In-district open enrollment, so people who live within our boundaries that choose a school that's not within the area where they live, and people who choose Scottsdale who live in other school districts. About 20% of our enrollment are students who live in other school districts that choose Scottsdale. So
a high percentage, I feel like, is it?
We're a destination for many families. We if you think about one of our closest neighbors, Paradise Valley, we bring in far more students from Paradise Valley than leave us to go to them.
Interesting.
So it's an environment where we strive to be the first choice for the parents who live in Scottsdale Unified School District. But parents do make choices for a variety of reasons. Some choose parochial school to support their belief in the importance of religious education. Others choose private school, maybe for perceived prestige or something else. Others will choose a charter school for whatever the reason is. But in Scottsdale, we have so many different learning opportunities, from Cheyenne traditional to the dual language immersion programs, STEM accredited schools at Laguna and Navajo and Saguaro High School, the Math and Science Academy, the IB continuum from Anasazi Elementary through Desert Mountain High School. So regardless of what it is that you are looking for in the educational experience for your son or daughter, Scottsdale Unified School District provides those opportunities within the public education framework. And why it's important, we recently, and this is not yet public, but will be very soon, the Arizona State University completed an economic impact study of Scottsdale Unified School District.
Yeah, I remember thinking about this. What was the results?
So SUSD, at a high level, SUSD graduates in 2021 across the state of Arizona, and this is graduates from all time, but gathering wage and earning data, earned more than $3.2 billion and paid more than $228 million in state and local taxes.
Wow.
So the impact of an SUSD education on the state and local economy is significant. What you'll find, and we expect to have a board presentation on August 29th to go over the data, is that the return on investment of the state's funding of K-12 education in Scottsdale and that value added is a 5-to-1 proposition when you're looking at the economic analysis from Arizona State University. So pretty significant in terms of the overall impact on the community. And research shows the quality public education system also has a positive impact on property values. Mm-hmm. And that data indicates that value is somewhere between 1% and 4% premium when you have a high quality public education system. In Scottsdale, given the property values that we have, that means the impact is between 1% and 4% is a very high number. So I think that when you look at the importance of public education, whether or not a parent chooses to send their child to Scottsdale Unified School District, everyone who pays taxes in Scottsdale has a vested interest in the success of the system.
Well, it goes. I mean, like you said, it affects our taxes. It affects your home value. It also affects the classroom sizes that we have and this amount of schools that we're able to build and improve upon it as well, which kind of leads to my next question. We do have some schools, and I'm concerned that with the lower, enrollment rate and stuff like that, that we might have to close some schools and make it more difficult for some of these families to find a school close to them and the bus routes and all that. What are we doing to ensure this doesn't happen? Because at the same time, I like not having a huge class size for my kids. They can learn better and it's easier for the teacher, but I don't want to see this hinder them by getting bigger class sizes because we can't fill a school building at the same time.
So we monitor carefully those buildings that have lower than expected enrollment and work with targeted recruitment enrollment strategies. So, for example, Echo Canyon, a K-8 school that has a unique approach to learning. Teachers loop with the students, which is fantastic. It means that you have your teacher 2 years in a row. They are a blue watermelon project for the community gardens. They have their chef in the garden, and the work that we do with that, using the gardens for a learning tool at Echo Canyon. We do this at many schools, but Echo Canyon is kind of the flagship, the model for how we do that. It's one of the best kept secrets. Up until recently, you could drive on Camelback Road and never know that Echo Canyon was there. Now there's a mural that notifies people that there's a school there. But it's one of those beautiful campuses that should be a draw. We have to help more people understand the meaningful learning opportunities that are available there. We do the same with other schools. And we have an opportunity, and we've seen when principals have been challenged with your enrollment is at that tipping point where we're going to have to make a decision, grow or consider the potential of closing. We've seen enrollment go up. And so part of it is being very clear about the educational opportunities, the value proposition of an SUSD education, and what it means to be in this system. And so part of it's telling our story and making sure that we're connecting with the communities where kids live, and also talking to those who live in surrounding communities who might find the value of a Scottsdale education something that they'd want for their child.
And how do you do that? How do you get the word out?
So we do it through a number of channels, social media. We have targeted recruitment strategies with niche on Facebook. So we know that parents who are searching for schools, they're going to see information about Scottsdale Unified School District pop up in their feed. And we can geofence some of that targeted recruitment based on where families are. So we look for families of young children and then target information related to elementary schools, for example.
Mm-hmm. It's not just students that we're having a hard time retaining, it's teachers too, and it's a national problem. Everyone that listens know I grew up in Georgia. My mom was an educator for 34 years. Two of my best friends are in education. So besides not actually working in it, because I have friends who did it and that's why I'm not doing it. I know the trouble is as national. We are not seeing anything special in our district that the whole US is not seeing everywhere. So I want to talk about how are we working to retain the teachers? And I also want you to kind of reference Governor Hobbs just created the Educator Retention Task Force and how that's going to work for SUSD as well.
So attracting and retaining talent is part of our strategic plan. It's goal number 3. We know that in order to provide world-class, future-focused learning opportunities for students, we need to have the very best teachers in every classroom. This is a difficult environment, and Arizona historically has not been a highly funded public education system. And so that creates some unique challenges for us. We've been able to provide meaningful increases in part because of the 20 by 20 initiative after Red for Ed. So there was an infusion of investment in funding for teachers. We also had a historic budget this past school year with $1 billion more put into public education. So that allowed us to raise base compensation for our teachers. We also did some things that were creative to address some of the wage compression. Our certified staff are one part of the equation. We also have classified staff where the work they do is significant. It's important. If kids can't get to school because we can't find bus drivers, that's also a challenge.
Yeah.
So thinking about attracting and retaining talent across all of our job classifications is important, but it's not just about money. It's also about the work environment. It's about feeling valued and respected. And in this environment, teachers often feel under attack. People are questioning what they're doing in the classroom in ways that sometimes make them feel harassed. And our teachers come to school every day to ensure that their students learn the core content. Our teachers aren't doing some of the things that they've been accused of, but it creates a hostile work environment when they're constantly feeling like they're under assault. The other variable that's a challenge for us and that we hope for a statewide solution relates to the cost of providing health insurance for not only the employees, where we provide a healthy subsidy, but for their spouse and families. And those costs are pretty significant. On top of it, in Arizona, the retirement system requires that the employee pays 12.29% of their salary into the retirement system, and the district matches that. That's not a small amount of money that comes out of a person's compensation. Now, in the back end, for retirement, there's a positive benefit there. But when you think about needing to be able to pay your mortgage and pay your bills in an environment where inflation has gone up, that's a large amount of money. And so thinking about ways to ensure that we can attract and retain talent, having a retirement system that's viable and solvent is important. But also being able to have affordable health insurance for families, creating work conditions where teachers feel valued as professionals and honored for the expertise they bring to the table, because the work they do is truly life-changing. And so for me, I want every single one of our Scottsdale Unified School District teachers and staff to know that they're valued, they're respected for who they are, what they do, and their deep commitment to the success of our students in this district.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I will never be, now I'm going to jinx myself by saying never, but I don't want to be a teacher. My son tells me I'm the worst teacher ever, and I agree with him. It's a job that's extremely difficult. It's underappreciated, like you said, and you can't do anything without a teacher in your life. You didn't learn to read without a teacher, math, nothing in life was not done without a teacher first. So I love that you focus on that, because I cannot preach that enough, parents. It's not about you, it's about the teacher and your student. And if we focus on that, we can make these improvements quicker and more efficiently, is my personal belief. I'm going to take a short break, Dr. Menzel. When we come back, let's talk about your future plans and what we can expect to see and expectations set. Buying a home can be scary and sometimes frustrating, but all of that can go away with the right realtor. And that's where Shawn Shackleton with the Shackleton Group is here for you. Shawn has over 25 years experience in real estate. She's here to get you what you want and won't settle for less. She's experienced, knowledgeable, and understands this market, which these days is always changing. Take the stress out of your next home purchase by calling Shawn at 480-734-7277. You can also find her at theshackletongroup.com. We're sitting here with Dr. Scott Menzel, SUSD Superintendent. We are a week away from school starting. Dr. Menzel, I was one of those parents that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe school's ending. I'm kind of sad. I want to see everyone. And now I am so excited to get my kids back. The heat is killing us. There's way too much screen time going on. We're keeping up with our reading and writing and stuff, but after so many hours, I don't know what else to do. So I'm excited to get back at it. But we're here talking about what the expectations and what we can see. It made national news during COVID that our kids were behind in reading and math. So I want to hear from you. How did Scottsdale do overall with our reading and math on the standardized testing this year? And how are you ensuring that our kids aren't the ones that are going to fall behind?
So academic achievement and excellence in performance of our students is a top priority for Scottsdale Unified. When you look at the data from the most recent testing cycle, our students are at, and in some cases above, pre-pandemic levels.
Nice.
We're 20 points plus above the state average on almost every metric. And we're competitive on the national metrics as well. Many cases above, and in some very close to that national average. So we're starting from a relative place of strength. But we do know that many of our students still are not where they need to be. And we're not satisfied with good academic outcomes and results. We want great. We want world-class. And so that means targeting and focusing our efforts on providing students the support they need to be successful. And there are two things that I think are really important for our parents to know as areas of focus. First is attendance. So you might have heard chronic absenteeism has kind of grown exponentially, not only in Scottsdale, Arizona, but also across the country. And what we know about attendance is that there's a strong correlation between attendance and test scores. Our data people have run that analysis and very clear. The students who are highly proficient and proficient on our state test are ones who attend school more regularly. They're not chronically absent. Chronic absenteeism means missing 10% or more of the school year, which is 18 days a year. What happens is that oftentimes parents may not even realize how much school a student is missing. You know, a day here, a day there, and the next thing you know, you're on that tipping point between an absence problem, chronic absenteeism, and ultimately, if students aren't in school, doesn't matter how good the teachers are, they're not going to learn from them because they're not there. And so we're going to start the school year with a significant emphasis on the importance of attendance. Attendance for learning, attendance because it's an important life skill. Most employers don't, accept sporadic attendance is something that's okay. You won't keep your job if you decide to miss 10% of the work year. Now, we know that people can be chronically ill. We know that there are situations that arise, and we'll work around those things. But post-pandemic, regular attendance has been a challenge for us. So we used to be at 95%, would have been our regular attendance, and we were at below 92% this past year. So wow. That's a focus because we know that there's a direct correlation with achievement. Secondly, when we look at our academic data, our students do very well in math and language arts in the elementary school. When you move into middle school and high school, math in particular becomes a challenge. And so we are focusing like a laser on how we support our math teachers in middle school and high school, working to understand where the deficiencies are and how we can support our students in being successful as they move through math. And there's a corollary with that because math is foundational for science achievement. So when we look at our scores in math and science, those are areas of focus for us. We're not going to ignore the other areas, but we know where we have an opportunity for significant improvement. And so our team is spending some time thinking about how do we support our teachers? How do we identify early on where the areas for remediation and support are so that our students can master the content and be prepared for that next level of curriculum as they move through the system?
Two things you mentioned. Attendance is key. I get that a lot of it has to do with that middle school, high school age, the more independence and stuff like that. And some of the things I was talking to teachers and parents about too is during COVID, there was a little bit lax on turning in assignments. And, we were all trying to figure this new way of learning online together and stuff. So I understand we have to accommodate, but some of those bad habits were formed with those students and it's hard to break those, right? It also goes to show, you talked about the workforce and stuff. We're having a workforce issue of people committing to the job. And that started during that time too, because we were too lax on those expectations. And I think those are key to success as well, because yes, entrepreneurship's great. And I think Scottsdale has an amazing entrepreneur, community. But at the end of the day, like those entrepreneurs learned how to do it because of the jobs they had growing up and because of going to school and stuff like that. That's really interesting. And I agree with that. The future is where our kids are at. This is what we're focusing on. Dr. Menzel, what is Scottsdale's Unified School District's 5-year plan for this district and for our kids right now?
So our strategic plan, which anyone can find on the website, really identifies 5 areas of focus, starting with academic excellence. And when you think about that, we want people to focus on college and career readiness. And for us, it's not enough just to get into college where we have a high college going rate, but it's that persistence after you enroll. 91% of our students last year, after they started the first year, came back a second year. So the persistence rate was solid. Mm-hmm. Add on top of that career and technical education, and our students earn industry recognized credentials. We're focusing on preparing our students for success beyond their Scottsdale Unified days. And so when we think about that, everything is a building block towards the future for our students and creating pathways for them to identify their purpose, their passion, and the skills necessary to pursue those so that when they leave us, they're able to become productive, contributing members of hopefully our community, but if not ours, wherever they choose to reside. So a Scottsdale Unified School District education should prepare them to pursue whatever path their passions lead them to. And so we're focused on thinking about the future. How do we use artificial intelligence, for example? Its impact on our students, its impact both for good and not so good on our staff. There are a whole lot of unanswered questions around that, but it's not something that we can ignore. So we're spending some time thinking about the impact of artificial intelligence on teaching and learning. Where can we use it to accelerate when students are behind? How do we help avoid students using ChatGPT to write their papers? We know there are all sorts of problems with that. And yet, in some ways, maybe artificial intelligence becomes the next calculator, right? A tool that helps accelerate learning for students. So there are a lot of things on the horizon when you think about world-class future focus that our team of professionals are wrestling with to ensure our students have the best possible educational experience.
Listen, I've fallen for a ChatGPT email. My husband wrote me one, and I was like, that's the sweetest thing you've ever said. And we've been together 16 years. And that's what he did. He laughed at me and he's like, it's ChatGPT. And I was like, can't believe I fell for it. So yes, it is scary out there. Let's kind of talk about like the curriculum and a little bit. No student learns the same way. No student has the same interests. And sometimes we have to teach within a box, and that's difficult to do for the teacher and for the student. I feel like there's times where the curriculum isn't as difficult as I wish it would be, and there are times where some students are having a hard time. So I understand. What are we going to do about that to ensure that Scottsdale continues to stay on top of the curriculum, continues to hold our students to a high standard of learning, but at the same time, help those students that may not have the same interest in math and science, but could be a great welder or a technical person, because we still need those skilled laborers as well?
So there are a couple of things that I think are important to point out. One, we have a curriculum review process. So virtually every 5 years, you're reviewing the curriculum that the district has adopted and identifying whether or not changes need to be made. And part of a curriculum adoption process results in purchasing materials, whether it's textbooks or support for the curriculum that's adopted. And the curriculum is aligned with the Arizona standards that have been established. So last year, for example, the governing board approved new science curriculum. And so now we have a process for helping our teachers access that new curriculum, understand what's there and how best to teach that so students can master the standards that the Arizona State Board of Education has adopted. That's part of our process. Pre-pandemic, in 2018, 2019, the governing board adopted a math curriculum, elementary and middle school. Then the pandemic hit. So some of the professional development that would have normally happened for our teachers on the mathematics curriculum was disrupted because of the pandemic.
Okay.
And when you think about the math curriculum, the problem may not be the curriculum. The problem may be that we didn't provide sufficient professional development. So what people do in absence of having that professional support is they fall back on what they know. And so part of our job is to address any potential challenges in teaching the board-approved curriculum by our teachers. And then one of the things many of our teachers do very well is to differentiate. There's a book called The End of Average, because average doesn't exist, right? If you design to the average, you're not hitting the target for anyone. Yeah. So really what we want to talk about is differentiating instruction, personalized instruction to meet the needs of students where they are. Their interests may vary, but the expectation for mastering the core content remains the same. So understanding approaches to learning, understanding what a student's interest is, and focusing on differentiating that instruction based on where students are is the strategy that helps us move forward faster together. And then using data to inform where we need to reteach a concept, because we take a look and say, half the class didn't get this concept. So let's spend the time going back and figuring out what we need to do differently to ensure they get the concept, not just going through or covering content, but ensuring that students are learning the material, because it's all a building block to future learning and ultimately to that world of work and life beyond high school.
The Arizona standard that you were talking about, how does that compare to the national education standard that we have to, work with?
So there are a lot of similarities. There's no formal national standards, right? There had been some work that was done that people raised questions about, and so I don't need to relitigate old controversies.
Please don't.
but at the end of the day, there's general agreement for a sequence of curriculum, whether it's in English language arts, mathematics, social studies, or science, that builds towards a level of proficiency that prepares students for post-secondary success, whether that's in career and technical education and training, because a high school diploma by itself generally is not sufficient to get the kinds of work that people need to pursue their passions in life. So it's a necessary first step on that journey. But 50 years ago, and I think I grew up in Michigan, you could graduate from high school, go work at one of the big 3 auto manufacturers, make a really good wage, buy a vacation home in northern Michigan, and not have to have any additional education or training. That period of time is long since passed. And so our students are going to need some education and training beyond high school. And it could be at the community college, it could be at university, and it could be, a skill earned through the military or a skilled trades apprenticeship. There are a lot of different pathways to get there, but education and training beyond high school is necessary in order for individuals to become productive members of the workforce.
Yeah, I agree. And that goes back to what we were talking to at the beginning, Dr. Menzel. There's not a box that we can fit every student in, and we got to quit thinking like that. And I think that's part of the reason we're having trouble with our education system is there's not one formula fits all, and we have to work with that. We have to create different formulas to make sure that our kids get to that next stage of life, because that is on us and our educators. But at the same time, as parents, we're the ones that elect those officials and to make those decisions. And I think it's really important that we pay attention very closely to that for our own expectations. We've been sitting here talking about goals for the district and for our students. Dr. Menzel, what are your personal goals for this school year?
So for me, one, I want to make sure that we're back to our theme, focusing every day on our students and their success, creating a culture and climate where every student feels seen, heard, and valued for who they are, and where we as adults can kind of buffer the external noise so that kids can thrive in the learning environment. I want to see an environment where our students have FOMO if they miss school, or fear of missing out. I want them to beg their parents to make them come to school, because the learning environment is so engaging, so exciting, so interesting that they want to be there. And that's at every level. Our elementary kids come to school with such a natural curiosity and desire to learn. And as they move through the system, you see some of that love of learning seem to slip a little bit. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that we can see that glimmer in their eye, the excitement about learning, the natural curiosity, and that we have not only that experience for our students, but for our staff. This is hard work. It's really important work. But boy, if everyone can come together and create a learning environment where we're on the same team, working in the same direction for the benefit of our students, amazing things can happen.
I love that. And I think some of that to accomplish that, Dr. Menzel, is going back and offering the different opportunities for our kids. But my son's one of those that does not care about writing. And he tells me I'm going to be a typer. No one's going to be writing when I get older. And he's not wrong. But at the same time, you need to learn how to write. And he's wants to do math and science. My daughter loves writing. And I always joke with them, they have the same level of handwriting and they're 4 years apart, right? The interest of the children is, different. But if we take that into consideration, and offer those different opportunities for our students, then we have the opportunity for more students to thrive. And I love that.
And helping them see the relevance of what they're learning. And that's at all levels as well. Yeah. Why do I need to know this? If we can't answer that question, then students won't be invested. If they only need to know it for the test and it doesn't have any other relevance, then we haven't really cemented the learning. And so getting back to the core, why do I need to know this? Why is this important? What's its relevance in the larger scheme of life? Those are important questions for us to be able to help our students wrestle with and understand as they move through the system.
Oh my gosh, my son asks me that all the time. And sometimes I tell him, because you're supposed to. I don't have the answers either. I don't know. But then it backfires on me too, Dr. Menzel. I haven't been in fourth grade in 20-something, 30-something years. That it's I don't know, that was fourth grade. He's so I don't need to know it, do I? So be careful how you answer your kids' questions. They might outsmart you. Dr. Menzel, one of my favorite questions I ask at the end of every interview is, what's your favorite Scottsdale vibe? But I'm going to change it up a little for you. And I'd like to ask you, what is your favorite thing about your job? Because you have a very important one.
So for me, tied to our Because Kids theme, the favorite thing about my job is that I have an opportunity every day to work with nearly 3,000 employees, 21,000 plus students, and all of our families to create meaningful learning opportunities for kids. Public education is fundamentally important to the success of our community, to its viability and vibrancy. And I have the good fortune of being in a position where I can impact the entire system And so for me, notwithstanding all of the noise and the political pressure and the competing claims and concerns that we have and all sorts of issues that superintendents can write books, because there's you can't make this stuff up book that every superintendent can write. But for me, what I love most is the ability to do something that makes a difference. And I believe that when you're in this role, you have the opportunity to do that. And it gets me out of bed every morning, excited about what I do and living the dream in Scottsdale.
I love to hear that. And I love that. And we thank you for it. And as the school year starts back next week, I really want all of us to take a moment and think about what we want this year. So do something to get involved in your kid's school, whether that's PTO, volunteering for an event. Honestly, I've set up a meeting with my principal and said, how can I help you this year? Even donating a Costco amount of tissues and Clorox wipes, I know would just help our teachers' pocketbook out, talking about that 12.9% that's taken out for their retirement. There's a lot to do that we can do together as a community. And I think if we focus more and really just ask our kids, what do you want out of school? We might start listening to the people that matter, and that's the kids. And so I thank you for that, Dr. Menzel, because it really is, like you said, at the end of the day, all about them.
Thank you. I appreciate that and look forward to continued partnership with our families and making 23-24 school year as best as it possibly can be. And
hopefully a lot cooler than what we're getting right now. Let's just start there too.
Maybe the monsoons will actually show up.
Oh, I hope so. If not, make sure those ACs are working, Dr. Menzel. Otherwise, exactly. I promise you will hear about it. All right. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We're going to have calendar of events coming up next. When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust. And that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. Have a wonderful week, Scottsdale. Keep vibing, and I'll see you around town.